Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Thanks, It's Vintage with your co-hosts, Andrew
and Lydia.
And just as a reminder to everybody who is listening, we are here at Kenmore Square.
We are.
Vino Divino. Very excited to be back for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we should just remind everyone that I am the head sommelier for the VDV Select program, the wine concierge program here at Vino Divino.
And I am the district manager of Vino Divino.
Really excited. We're going to jump on in and talk about, I think, a topic that everybody loves. Oh, yes, bubbles.
So exciting.
Oh, so excited to get into all of these. And so excited to, just lay it all out for everybody.
Yeah. Just define some things.
I mean, this is...
Also, I haven't tried 3 out of 4 of these wines, so I'm very excited.
I have not tried 2 of 4 of these wines.
Actually, no, I think I've only not tried 2.
Okay, good. So we might be on the same page here.
On the same page, yeah.
We'll discuss which ones they are later.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be great to just kind of start with, just a little brief a bit about this category. It's been a growing category in wine for the last couple of years now.
It has. And the mid-tier has been growing significantly. The premium kind of halted a little bit, but I think they're back on track.
They're a little back on track.
Yeah.
There's a love affair happening with champagne now that has got a lot of people starting to geek out and seek out small artisanal producers, or as we know them, grower champagne.
Grower champagne.
Not the big houses you see on every single grocery store shelf. You know what they are. We all know the color of one of those labels. But
the trademarked color.
Oh, the trademarked color. But we it's fun to see that people are exploring this category and loving it. I love this category. It's one of my absolute all-time favorite, areas of wine to play with.
Well, this was, and you hear about this when people enter the industry, you hear about what they end up gravitating to. And I was such a red drinker. I was so heavily a red drinker for so long. And then when I actually learnt about things, the thing that totally flipped me was bubbles. You just fall in love. It happens.
I fell in love with bubbles too. I too actually was a big red drinker when I started. And I need to make this clear. I'm still a red drinker for everybody.
Oh, of course. But
wants to know. I still love red. But I'm doing more red wine with pairings now. Yes. And then I do lighter reds on their own, so I'll drink a Pinot Noir on its own, but I won't drink a Bordeaux on its own or a Rioja, on its own. Anything that starts getting more medium body, I love it with food. But these do well with food too.
Bubbles can be anytime.
And they can be anytime. And I trust me, I had a bottle of bubbles last night, so...
Ooh, I finally drank that Cremant, the vintage Cremant.
Oh, what'd you think?
So nice.
I know, right?
So delicious.
I was so excited to offer that to everybody. I hope that everyone else loved them as much as we love them.
They were so good. I'm probably going to order more, to be honest.
I know. I don't know if there's any more of the 2014 vintage.
That is okay.
But I think 2016 is available.
Ooh, okay. Well, definitely worth a try.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyone who does not know, get on my email list and you will know what we're talking about.
Good stuff.
But those are bubbles we're not going to talk about today. Let's dive on into these guys. But first, I think it's really good if we talk about how you open a bottle of bubbles.
Okay.
Now, this means that we're going to go slightly out of order because we're going to start with the Prosecco first, but I'm not going to open the Prosecco because anyone who is watching notices that this is a Prosecco with a bottle cap. And that is unique. Not the kind of enclosure that we normally see for a bottle of sparkling wine, at least not for Prosecco. You will see this on pet nats, but not Prosecco.
Yes. Much more common.
So that being the case, I am going to actually open the second bottle, which is the German Sekt, and that will be the one that we demonstrate.
Which we will talk about later, but...
Yes. So...
Opening first.
We'll open this one first, and basically how you open these, you'll notice that a lot of them have a pull tab, or you can use a wine key, and you can cut the foil. But since this has a pull tab, we're going to keep it easy.
And also since they have cages, the knife is less less fun to use. There's usually a tab involved that you can pull. On here, it's these ones just here. And then that's one just here.
Perfect. So we got that off now. And what we're going to do is and of course, if you're listening, you're not going to see this, but I still will verbally walk you through it. But if you're watching at home, you can see exactly what I'm doing. So what we're going to do is we are going to hold the neck of the bottle with one hand, and we are going to put our thumb on top of the cage. That is before we undo the cage. There's a reason we're doing this, and I think we all know what it is, right? You would think it's common sense, but I have watched many people, including those who are serving these bottles in restaurants, just go and open the cage without anything holding that cage down. And that is a problem because there is a lot of pressure in this. In fact, and I haven't verified this, but I was told by a previous employer one time that there was enough pressure in a bottle of bubbles that it basically was like almost the same as if you fired a gun.
It's like 5 to 6. There is a measurement that you can look up. I've completely forgotten it, but 5 to 6 somethings of pressure inside the bottle, which is incredibly high.
Here's the point. If it hits you in the eye, you're gonna have to go to the hospital. That's the main point.
Yeah.
That much we can say.
We don't want to damage.
And we don't want anybody to get hurt. So always put your thumb over the cage before you start to undo the cage. And so you twist it open. And what I like to do, and I always tell everyone this because everyone gets a little tripped on this, the cage is resting underneath one of the lips on the bottle. So once the cage is open, I just like to use 2 fingers here, right? And just kind of push the cage out a little, right? So that way, when I go to lift the cage off, and this is the only time I take my thumb off, right? But just enough that I can squeeze the cage right by. Then I don't have to worry about it getting caught on the lip. Now comes the next part. So what you're going to do, all right, is you are going to, again, keep thumb on the cork, keep hand on the neck of the bottle. And what you're going to do is with the other hand, you are going to hold the bottom of the bottle. Hold it how it feels comfortable and where you feel like you have the best grip. All right, because this is the most important piece. Now I'm going to shimmy my hand up the neck, hold on to that cork, make sure I've got it firm. And then I'm not going to turn the cork. I'm going to keep that hand where it is, and I'm going to just twist the bottom of the bottle back and forth. And I'm going to feel that pressure, and it's going to get to a point where I'm going to slowly, very firmly, I'm holding this real tight now, let it whisper out. Beautiful. Anybody at home definitely heard that if you are listening, and that is how we do it. Now,
also holding at a roughly 30-degree angle, just so you've got purchase.
Exactly. Now, if anyone wants to know why we just let out that little whisper, there's actually 2 reasons here. One, if you are in a restaurant setting, you don't want to be having a lovely conversation in a nice fine dining environment, right? And then all of a sudden, right behind you, you just hear loud pop. First, it's gonna jump scare you. It's gonna jump scare anybody if you don't see it coming, right? And 2, it just kind of ruins the environment.
Yeah,
it ruins the environment. The second reason, though, and this is important for anyone who's like, well, I'm at home and I don't need to worry, right? And I love the sound of the pop. You are releasing a ton of the CO2 in the bottle. A ton of it when you let it do the pop. So what you're doing by controlling that is you're actually limiting how much of the bubbles you're losing in the opening of the bottle. We love the bubbles. That's why we buy these wines, right? It's a big part of this. We want the sparkle in the glass. So we want to limit how much of those bubbles we lose. Trust me when I say practice makes perfect. This is a process that you will learn very quickly if you're opening these bottles every week. So give it a try at home. Don't be afraid of it. Just be confident in your ability to do it. That being said, I'm going to put that back there. And we
back into these.
Are going to go with wine number 1, the Prosecco.
Should we talk about styles of sparkling?
Let's talk about styles.
We're at that point.
We're starting with Prosecco here. So what do we want to say about this beauty that I think we all love? And most importantly, I think a lot of people love in mimosas, but they are beautiful by themselves too, especially when you get the right bottle of Prosecco.
So, first of all, Prosecco is a different method of making to champagne. Champagne we call traditional method or méthode champenoise. Prosecco is tank method, so it is by definition a cheaper way of producing wine. But it can still be an exceptional product.
Yes.
It's just going to be more affordable, which is always a good thing. And we have different delineations of Prosecco. We have Prosecco DOC, and then there is a DOCG.
Yes.
This is a DOC, correct?
This one is a DOC. That is correct.
Okay.
The DOCG, I want to say, is always going to be your higher tier, like, smaller appellations within the larger appellations, like Valdo Biadene.
Yeah.
Yes. And those are where you get your higher quality grapes.
Yeah. And they are generally more controlled in terms of yields and things like that. So the quality of the grapes tend to be better overall. But there are so many producers doing really interesting things in this region now that I think it's fair to say it's one of those regions that gained a ton of popularity. It grew pretty quickly. Quality changed a little bit, suffered a little bit. And as with a lot of regions, we are moving back to a quality focus.
Yeah. And I think that, with Prosecco, it's very easy for you to have lower quality in terms of just the production process alone, because we're not talking about something that has to be produced in small amounts or have a lot of like hand picking, handling involved. This is a process. The Charmant method, tank method, how we make Prosecco is as it sounds. We're putting it into a stainless steel tank. That gives us our first wine, which is a still wine, and then we put it into a second stainless steel tank with more yeast, and that gives us the bubbles.
We pressurize it in that tank.
And so we're really talking about something that can be mass produced really easily.
Yes.
Really easily. And so I think that's where the quality level of Prosecco ended up suffering for a period of time, was because we saw so many cheap bottles.
The demand was there.
And the demand was there.
Yeah.
And listen, those cheap bottles, absolutely perfect for a mimosa.
Nothing wrong with them.
Because the citric acid in that orange juice is going to cover all of the problems with that Prosecco.
Yeah.
But then there's bottles like this that are beautiful and they're
a totally different thing.
Exactly. They're in your low 20s. Maybe you get a Valdo Biadene. Oh, I'm going to say that wrong. Valdo Biadene. Maybe you get a
Valdo Biadene, I think.
Valdo Biadene.
That took me un Conegliano.
Maybe we get a bottle of that, and that's, again, that's that smaller appellation inside of the larger appellation of Prosecco. Higher quality grapes, higher tier, the rules are a little stricter. Those bottles are going to be in the $30 range sometimes, sometimes into the 40s, depending on the producer. There are some like God tier producers who make incredible Valdo Biadene.
And who have a history there. They've been doing it for generations.
Exactly. And those are worth those prices, but that's not Prosecco that you would mix in orange juice.
No.
Those have on your own as a like before dinner or after dinner kind of wine. And that's what they intend with those Proseccos.
Absolutely.
Have we talked about the history of Prosecco?
No, go for it.
Yes. So I took some notes because I want to make sure I got the history of each of these styles as we talk through them. So the first one, of course, as we're talking, is Prosecco. It actually goes back to Roman times with Pucchino wine, but its modern identity basically started in the late 19th century. 1895, Federico Martinotti invented the way to ferment in large pressurized vats rather than individual bottles. He created the Charmant method, basically. And then later it was refined by Eugene Charmant, who gave it its name, essentially. And that is what allowed for us to do this bulk fermentation and create this style of sparkling wine. Whereas previously it had to be done in the traditional method. And that's
Or even the ancestral method.
or the ancestral
Yeah.
method, which is ancestral method is the pet nat way. Traditional method, that's your champagne way, right?
Mhm.
And so we'll get into that method, right? But that's how it all started. And the other thing to note too, actually, is that the grape in Prosecco is Glera. That's going to matter
Which
here,
used to be called Prosecco
right?
for even more confusion.
And that's going to matter here because when we talk about sparkling wines and we talk about the different methods, the grapes you use in them actually determines how the wine comes out. And we're going to talk about that a little more, I think, between the Cava and the Champagne when we talk about how
Yes.
they're made, because they are made
Mm.
the same exact way.
Mm.
It's the same method, but the grapes are different. And so therefore you don't get the same flavors, the same aromas.
Mhm.
But Glera is the grape that we are using here. And it's a grape you don't really find outside of Prosecco. It's really
No, I mean,
Prosecco.
I'm sure it's places, but it is very proudly a Prosecco grape. The other thing to note is that Prosecco, general kind of grocery store Prosecco, tends to sit a little sweeter. It tends
Yes.
to sit at the extra dry mark, not the brut mark. I think generally most champagne methods are aiming for brut or maybe even drier than
Yes.
that. But Prosecco tended to sit a little sweeter at the extra dry. I know that sounds like it would be drier than brut, but it's not. It is more sugar content. This one, very dry.
Yes.
This one is brut, if not more, does it say?
So this one I want to say is brute. I don't think it's more than that. And I don't even know if it says it, but I can tell just on the palate that yes, this is definitely brute. It actually doesn't even say on here
It doesn't say.
for this particular one.
Interesting.
I love this, the Flora from Fuso Wines, imported by Portovino. Great Prosecco. But yeah, it doesn't even say on the bottle actually that it is brute. But I swear to you, this is brute. I can tell there is no residual sugar as I taste this.
I mean, to be fair, brut has residual sugar. We
Let's-
should clarify that.
Let's clarify that. And actually, that gives us a great way to talk just quickly about what these different dry
Yes.
styles mean. So for those who may not be fully aware, brute means that there is 12 grams or less of
Yeah.
residual
But
sugar.
it can be 0 to 12 technically?
I think
Or
technically.
is it 7 to 12?
Well,
I'm
here's the issue.
remembering.
The term brute is used across
Yes.
boundaries. So
Yes.
we're not talking about the exact same standards for each country that is producing sparkling wines that are in the brute category.
Yeah.
Everyone has their requirements. Some of them don't say it can be all the to zero. Some of them actually say, oh, well, it could be
7 to 12, I think.
7 to 12,
Yeah.
right? So then there you have brute. The thing to note is that the human palate cannot perceive any residual sugar that is at 10 grams per liter or less. So if brute is max 12 grams per liter, then that's going to tell you where extra brute is, which is even drier. And that's going to tell you where brut nature, which is the driest, which is literally almost nothing. We're talking, I think, like 0 to 3 grams per liter of sugar.
Yeah.
It's very, very little, if anything. That tells you where those are. And at that point, you're not tasting for sweetness, right? Because it doesn't exist, essentially, right? What you are tasting, though, is texture. The less sugar there is in the bottle, the more the texture changes. That's where the acid starts to shine a bit more.
Yes.
And
So
so
this is the balance of our palates. It's that if one thing is lacking, other things will stick out. So if
Exactly.
there isn't any sugar or if there's very low sugar, you're going to notice the acid very, very upfront.
yes.
In a very fun way, I should say. But it's the same with alcohol levels. Like a lot of these are lower alcohol. This one is 11%, so quite low. But the lower the alcohol, the less body will be in the wine, the more you're going to notice other things.
Yes.
And it's always a balance. Everyone's palates are slightly different, so some people are going to prefer one style over another. But this one is very elegant on the
Yeah.
palate for starters, but it doesn't have a lot of alcohol. It doesn't have a lot of sugar. So you're noticing the quality
Yes.
because there's nothing to mask it.
Right.
And it's gorgeous.
And this also, this is where we get to talk about the fact that, Prosecco in its style can range from something that's very fruity, which I think for a lot of people can give that perception of sweetness,
Yes.
which is why I have always personally said to anybody who is shopping for wines or who is at a restaurant, never use the terms dry or sweet because they're really going to only they're really only going to count for like a very few number of grapes that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
For example, it makes no sense to say, oh, I like dry Chardonnay. There is no such thing as a not dry Chardonnay. Like it doesn't exist. And the reason it doesn't exist,
someone's
probably done it, right? But you're never going to have it. Like it's just not going to happen, right? I could bet my life on that, right?
Pretty much always going to be.
They're all going to be dry.
Yeah.
Because that's how people work with that grape. It's just how people work with that grape. It's not a grape that people are using to make a sweet style of wine. Riesling is a whole nother category, right?
Yes.
A whole nother grape. That, yes, you could use dry to sweet. So when it comes to Prosecco, use those terms, right? But also just keep in the back of your mind that sometimes, even though it's dry, they could have made it in a way where they allowed the fruit of the wine to really shine. And that is going to give you something that is really like fruity and expressive. And you might take a sip of that and think, oh, this is sweet.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, you're not getting the sugar sweetness. What you're getting is a flavor that is sweet. And there's a big difference between those two.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Do you want to say anything about the producer?
So I know that the Fuso wines are I want to say it's a collection of wines that is particularly made for the importer Portovino, which I love this importer. They bring in incredible wines. I've loved everything that they've brought in, honestly.
Things.
And that these wines are basically like a collective. So it's a bunch of smaller families pulling their grapes together like a cooperative, right? And actually getting everything made. So.
And they seem to have a kind of organic / terroir-driven mindset in their production.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is always a good thing.
And this is beautiful.
It is really lovely.
And you can also get this at the Kenmore Square Vino Divino location. Got to let you know that it's here.
It is not at the other locations.
Yes.
It is.
Just at this one. You got to come and say hi over here.
Say hi to Andrew.
Yeah. Andrew, our manager of the store.
There are two Andrews.
My name is Andrew, and I'm not the manager of the store. However, I do work out of here quite a lot, actually. So you could see me here.
You could.
Come by for a Red Sox game.
So fun.
There you go.
It's begun officially? It has.
It's begun.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, moving on to the world of Sekt. Okay, so Sekt. Germany has had a very long history of making sparkling wine, but we, until recently, have not really received it in the international market. It's mostly stayed in the domestic market. Fun fact, Germany drinks the most sparkling wine out of any country.
No way.
Yep.
Okay, they were onto something before the rest of us were.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sekt, that's not necessarily saying that they were drinking only German sparkling. They were drinking everything.
Well, I mean, champagne's not that far from them.
Exactly. But in the 19th century, a lot of German makers were going to Champagne to learn the ropes and bringing that knowledge back to Germany and creating some really special, beautiful sparkling wines out of the local grapes. Then, of course, like a lot of Europe's wine history, the wine industry suffered immensely with both world wars. And it became a much cheaper industrialized product after World War II. A lot of the grapes that they were using were imported from other parts of Europe. They were just getting a ton of bulk wine and then turning it sparkling in Germany and calling it Sekt. And then, as we've talked about with Prosecco, there was a turn back to quality. So Sekt is a really interesting one because A, you don't see it very often. B, there isn't the same kind of expectation of method built into the system as there is in Prosecco, as there is in Champagne or Champagne method sparkling wines. So Sekt, there are 3 levels. The bottom level can be tank method. It can be Chamotte method, but it also can be Champagne method. It depends on the maker. The levels are based around where the grapes are being pulled from. So this is Deutsche Sekt. Then there's a Deutsche BA Sekt, and then I'm going to mess this up. Winzer Sekt. I think that's it. Winzer Sekt, which so the middle level the grapes, at least 85% of the grapes have to be pulled from one of the 13 or multiple of the 13 regions in Germany.
Okay.
And then the top level is your single estate, terroir-driven wine, pretty much always made in the Champagne method or traditional method. But this Deutsche Sekt, this entry level, can be made either way.
Okay.
This one happens to be made the traditional method. So Hilt is the label. Matthias Hilt and his family are making these wines. The interesting thing here is that it is a completely different grape to all of the other ones.
Right.
So this is Elbling. This is a relatively rare now grape, even in Germany.
Hold up. We got to hold the phone here for 1 second because I am live from Kenmore Square. I have just learned something that I did not expect. We read up on these things, but of course we talked about you taking the lead on the Sekt, so I didn't really do that much into it. I mean, I know how Sekt is made, and I know you normally, Riesling is the one that you mostly see. So
is the one that you mostly see.
What is this grape again?
So this grape, this is, first of all, let's talk about the region. So the region is Upper Mosel, not Mosel.
Oh.
And there is a very big difference between those two regions. Because it's got the same name, you would just kind of assume it's a similar region. Completely different soil types. So Mosel, which is obviously very famous for Riesling, is based on slate. Everything is a variety of slate. That's the prized soil type there. The Upper Mosel, which is, I don't actually know how far away technically it is, but it is limestone and it is the end of the Paris Basin.
Oh.
So it is limestone and chalk, which is the same kind of soils that you find in Champagne.
Okay.
Which is why this area has become a sparkling hub. And the grape itself, Elbling, is really only, I think, found in Germany, and it's kind of fallen out of favor. It's
Gotcha.
it's a very high acid grape, produces low alcohol wines, so it's perfect for sparkling wines, but it doesn't have the kind of flavor punch that a Riesling would produce. And it really only, I think, does well in these kinds of soils. So it's not found many other places. And also it just kind of, things go in cycles and it kind of fell out of favor. It's technically indigenous to the Mosel, to the Upper Mosel. But this maker, Matthias Hilt and his family, have revived old plots of this one grape.
Gotcha.
It's a labor of cultural love, essentially.
Okay.
And it was just, they did it themselves. It's just this one family who have revived these gorgeous plots of this ancient grape that they'd just been abandoned, I think. And it's taken them a while, but they have gained a lot of respect in the market and they are producing very good quality sparkling wines. I think they're making still as well, but at really decent price points.
Okay.
So I think this might sit at, I don't know, below 30. It sits below 30.
Okay.
And I mean, I've never had Elbling.
I mean, this is the first time I've had it, and it's
This is
beautiful.
why we wanted to add this, because it's, first of all, you don't see Sekt very much in America at all. And secondly, it's an interesting producer doing something unique
Right.
with sparkling wine. So let's give it a taste.
I will say, on the nose, it's just gorgeous, like gorgeous,
pretty.
like bouquet of like stone fruit, orchard fruit, floral tones.
And you're getting that yeast as well.
It's there, yeah.
The
Touch that
method.
breadiness, just a touch.
And it's important to note on the label, they give a range of alcohol, and it's a very wide range, 10
Yeah.
to 13%.
So
So it could be anywhere in there.
it's funny because you basically, this is where the ABV on the wines is kind of funny. It's good, right?
Ooh.
So
That's really
if
fun.
anybody looks at a label that says, ABV 12%, it could be anywhere from 11% to 13%.
Yeah.
Because it's actually not guaranteeing that the ABV is exactly 11%. What it is guaranteeing is that it is around 11%. And so, funny enough, if you look at European labels for alcohol, a lot of them actually have a range on it, whereas most of the labels that are for the US market actually just say a number. But if you don't know, then you think that is the number, and you don't realize, no, that's the middle of the range, essentially. So, which is funny. So if this was a US wine, it probably would have said like 11.5% and not, 10 to 13.
Yeah, not given a range.
So,
I mean, on the palate, this is so vibrant. This is really fun. It has a lot of character, flavor-wise, that you don't necessarily get on the nose.
wow.
It's so zingy.
Yeah.
Zingy is the word. It's mineral-driven. It's like you can taste the limestone.
I want this as the weather warms up in a week from now.
Yes. Yeah, today is rubbish.
Oh, it's so gross out.
But so different. I mean, you are tasting the limestone. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, these first two, so well made, so affordable.
Also, just so that we can make a connection here, because you talked about the fact that these German families learned in Champagne. A lot of them learned in Champagne and brought that back. I want to point out that there are two names of champagne houses that are very famous that everybody knows. If you know Champagne, you know these two houses. One of them, very, very famous, and that is Krug and Bollinger. Krug and Bollinger are both German.
Yep.
These are champagne houses that were actually established by Germans that moved to Champagne.
There was a very deep connection for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll get more into how the whole house thing started when we get to the bottle of champagne. But for now, I think it's time
to move on.
To jump into Cava.
Yes. And Cava time.
Cava. And this is a rosé Cava, which is really fun.
Rosé Cava.
It's the only rosé on the table.
So we are both familiar. I've definitely had the regular.
Yes.
The Reserva.
So Bohigas, do you know their history?
Yes. So these guys have been in this spot for centuries.
Yeah.
The family traces back to as early as 1290. So it's an incredibly historic spot for them. They farm now in 2 villages, but they are under the banner of Dio Cava, and at some other point we will be discussing Cava on its own, because there have been a lot of changes in the classification system, and there are a lot of new classification systems that are cropping up. But this is the Dio Cava.
Yep.
This family, we have Jorgi, or I think I'm going to check his name just for a second. No, sorry, Jordi, and Maria, his daughter, who is the winemaker now.
Okay.
They are the producers. They are the owners. It is still family owned. They have been doing traditional method wines in this one spot for generations. I was so impressed when I found their Reserva. I was just enamored with it. It's affordable and it's excellent.
Yes.
And that's always something to celebrate. So just to speak on the word Cava, when you see the word Cava, you know that that means that it's made in the traditional method. So it's made in method champenoise. A bunch of countries have had to come up with their own wording around this because champagne is so litigious and will sue you if you use the word.
Well, and I think this is, I think that's really a positive, though. And
oh, absolutely. It's a place of identity. And
exactly.
And they're not using the same grapes.
No.
It's the same method. It is not the same product.
Exactly. And that's really important. So like a lot of people make jokes. My friends have also made jokes, being like, oh, can't call it champagne if it's not from Champagne, France. I don't know how that's going to sound when you're all listening. I hope I don't sound weird in your headphones. But
I mean, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong, right? There's a reason for that, right? Like, it's not just that they're using different grapes, right? It could be also that they have different rules around aging requirements. They have different soils, different farming techniques.
Yeah.
The weather is different, and that makes a big difference. So even if they are using the same grapes, and there are producers out there who in other countries are making
Australia, there's a lot of Pinot and Chardonnay traditional method sparkling.
Exactly.
But it does not taste the same.
No, and it won't. And it's because the weather makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
This is what we keep pulling back to, this sense of terroir, which is sense of place.
Yes.
It is, you can grow the same grape 10 miles up the road.
And it won't taste the same.
And it won't be the same because of how it's made, where it's grown, the weather, the soils.
Burgundy's a great example.
Yep, absolutely.
They're full of those examples. Burgundy is. But Cava, cool thing with Cava is that it exists mostly because of Giuseppe Raventos. Now, the Raventos wines, those are incredible too. I've loved those wines. They're no longer in the Cava Dio. They pulled themselves out. And they're in their own appellation of one, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we will talk about this on another podcast because it is worthy of discussion.
But he basically, in 1872, he basically was traveling through Europe and studying winemaking, and he came back to the Pinedas region of Spain, and he applied that traditional method to the local grapes there, Macabeo, Xarel-lo, Parellada, and it became basically Cava. And so the interesting thing, though, is that they actually used to call it Champagne.
Yes.
And then when the EU protected the word champagne, they had to switch to Cava, and that's how that happened.
And we should just say that Prosecco is in the process of doing the same thing.
Good.
Protecting the word.
They should.
Which Australia is going to have to
You know what? They should,
quickly.
because Prosecco is also unique, and it only comes from one place, and it tastes the way it does. So
yeah.
Cava, again, is also unique, and that's why you don't call it Cava unless it comes from Spain, and it's made in...
Catalunya, to be specific.
Yeah. So it's also, the other thing to note is these wines tend to not be as toasty, brioche as champagne can be.
They tend not to. I think it's fair to say that pretty much every region that is doing the champagne method doesn't age to the extent that champagne ages.
Yes.
On the lees. So you are going to get breadiness. You are going to get that toasty brioche biscuit quality sometimes, depending on what the maker is doing. But champagne is going for years.
Yeah.
Generally.
Non-vintage, they'll go shorter. They'll go 12 months non-vintage.
Minimum lees aging in Cava is 9 months. So people go over it generally, but it's not to the same extent.
Yeah.
There are producers that are probably going to the same extent, but again, it's still not going to be the same product.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this wine, as Andrew mentioned, there are 3 indigenous grapes in the white sparkling covers that are generally the ones you will find. So Xarel-lo, I mean, there are different pronunciations, forgive us.
Yeah.
Xarel-lo, Macabeo, which is Viola for the people that are more familiar with Rioja, and Parellera. So this is the Rosat. This is not using those grapes. This is using 2 other grapes. They are allowed within the DO, they are allowed to use international grapes. So Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are acceptable.
Yes.
Most people don't use them because they want it to be Spanish. They want it to be Catalonian. They want it to have a sense of identity to Spain. This one is a red grape called Trepat, which, again, mostly gets used for rosé sparklings. There is a bit of a movement going on right now to become a more red-focused still production. There is a DO that has popped up in 1985. I'm going to look up the name. And it's pronounced differently as well, so I'm just going to mess this up. But where is it? You can cut this bit out.
Right.
Conca de Barbera. I think I'm doing that right. The accent is on the A, so I'm guessing. But they are making still reds and rosés, I believe.
Okay.
But primarily it's still used as a sparkling rosé.
Oh,
Great.
okay.
Tends to be a little lower in both acid and alcohol, but it is drought resistant, which is one of the reasons why they think there's a future in this grape.
That's
Spain
really
is
important.
dry.
Yeah.
And so many regions within Spain, it is so painfully dry in the hottest of summers that whatever they can make work is going to last.
Yeah.
So this is 90% Trepat and 10% Pinot Noir. So they're doing that to balance it, essentially. Pinot Noir is high acid. They're lifting it a little bit.
Gotcha.
Have I covered everything? I think so.
I think so. I mean,
So neither of us have tried the Rosat.
No, this is the first time trying it. It's absolutely beautiful,
It's a
honestly.
beautiful color. Dark salmon. It's gorgeous.
And it's, it's definitely got some really nice, light red fruit, but
definitely red
peach
fruit
as well. There's a little bit of
fruit.
like orchard stone fruit kind of thing going on here.
Ooh, and
Not
there's
orchard,
like a really
but stone fruit.
sweet core, which is
Almost like a candied note.
but
very
sure it's not
light.
palate, but it's
Very light.
there. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Don't want
kind of
people
beautiful spice underneath.
don't want people to think when we say there's a little bit of a candy that it's like, oh, this is very
This is-
sweet on the
yeah,
nose.
it's
No,
not
it's
that. It's-
very light. It's faint,
Pretty.
but it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Lovely on the
Gorgeous.
palate.
Oh.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yum.
And this is what you want. This is what you want.
So pretty.
It's so easy to drink. It's classic. It's delicious.
There's a beautiful intensity as well.
Yeah.
I would never want to mix this with anything. This is a by itself wine. I mean, you can pair it with food, but
Yeah.
oh, this is
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
wow. I knew it would be good because it's them, but
And this is why I love Cava, And the other thing to know, and just like as a final note actually to the Cava saga, is that there is another organization, another appellation. Are there 2?
I think there are multiple now.
Oh, wow. Well, there's one in particular I'm thinking of. I got to go brush back up on what's going on in Spain, honestly.
Much going on.
But there is one in particular that I'm thinking of, and that is Corponat. And if you ever see a bottle of Corponat, and you'll notice it's from Spain, one, that's not Cava. And the reason we're making that distinction is they are another appellation. These are people who, these are families that separated out. Some of these families were founding members of the Cava DO that left. And it's because they wanted to do something that was more serious, something that had stricter rules, longer aging requirements. And they wanted to get closer to that champagne-like style, but from Spain. And those producers, when you find them on the shelf, they are going to be more money because the longer you're aging something, the more you do like hands in the process, right? You have restrictions and all that stuff, all these rules. That's going to drive the cost up. And that's not a bad thing because you're getting a product that doesn't happen if you don't do those things. So it is truly something where it's like you have to pay that money to be able to smell or taste that style. It does not exist at a lower price point. And that's Corpinat. So if you see Corpinat on a bottle, that's what it is. It is basically Cava producers that left and decided to do something that was the next level in Spain. So I would say that Cava's probably a bit more on that. You know, I don't want
Cava went through the same thing that a lot of other sparkling regions did, where the popularity gained, it grew, the quality, that the people that were doing quality wine were still making quality wine, but there were just a whole bunch of bulk producers popping up out of the woodworks, and the ones that were focusing on quality inevitably need to create something else or pull away or do their own thing to distinguish themselves and to distinguish the quality. And that has happened in multiple regions in Spain. It's one of the biggest interests in Spain classifications because there's so many that we could talk about.
There are.
Yeah.
We'll dive more into Spain. We will. All right. I think it's time to get to the big guy. And that is champagne.
I'm so excited.
Here we go. It's the grand finale. It's the one we've all been waiting for. It is champagne.
From a very fun producer.
Oh, yes. Definitely. Camille Sabs. I love this producer. Let's get into champagne. Let's get into why
we value this so highly.
Why is this the top tier? So, first, let's talk about the region of Champagne real quick here. We can go all the way back to ancient Rome here. This is a beautiful place where its history is just littered with big world events, honestly. It was, a crossroads in the Roman Empire, and it continued to be a crossroads throughout its history as basically as a trading hub, as a commercial hub for international trade, international being European trade, I should say specifically, for a long time. And you know, as we transitioned from ancient Rome to eventually getting to the first king of France, which was Charlemagne, right? And then Reims became where they would crown the kings of France for the longest time. The cathedral in Reims, if you go there, it's very historic. But of course, Champagne is close to the border. And therefore, it did see a lot of war over the years as well. So this is a place that has basically seen its ups and downs consistently for a very long time. And World War II is probably the best example of war that has happened there.
Yeah.
And World War I too, actually. However, in all this time, if we go back to the medieval ages, it becomes a merchant hub, like a serious merchant hub. It's where there's a lot of textile merchants there. They are developing, I should say, at that time. And over the course of another couple hundred years, you know, it really develops out. When we get to basically the 1700s, these textile merchants are gifting bottles of champagne. At that time, it was not sparkling wine. So let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
1700s, they're not making sparkling wine, right? They're making still Pinot Noir, still Chardonnay. This is also an environment that's very cool climate, where the grapes don't fully ripen when we get to harvest season.
Yes.
That has been the history of this place. And so because of that, it's a very, very specific style of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay is what we have gotten historically from this area. However, something did happen. And that was that when they would bottle the wine after fermentation, they still didn't have a way of filtering the wines, getting all the yeast and all that stuff out relatively newer process. It's not something that we were able to do 200 to 300 years ago. So there would still be yeast and residual sugar and things in the bottle that they had bottled. Winter would hit, and what would essentially happen is all of that would freeze. And when it unfroze in the spring, it would kickstart a second fermentation inside the bottle. And some of those bottles would burst.
Would explode.
They would explode. There's a term that the French use for this. I have this in my notes here. And that was that the exploded bottles from the CO2, they earned a nickname, vin du... Let me make sure I say this right, because I want to say it in like a Spanish way, but it's French. Vin du diable, which is the devil's wine.
Yeah.
Right? And contrary to popular belief, Dom Perignon did not invent champagne. He thought the bubbles were an imperfection. He was trying to get them out of the wine.
Yeah.
His studies were to make the wine not sparkling. So all this lore around Dom Perignon is literally a lie. I'm so sorry to burst your bubbles. It's a lie. He never said that these are stars in the bottle or whatever that phrase is they like to say.
Yeah.
It's all lore. He thought the bubbles were an imperfection, and he dedicated his entire life to trying to get rid of the bubbles. He was trying to stop us from having this, essentially. Now,
what a mean man.
What really ended up happening is that it was the British who ended up developing the technology to blow stronger glass, thicker glass.
Yes.
And when they were able to do that, that is when sparkling wine and champagne all of a sudden became a thing. That's where we moved away from this as it's an imperfection, and it became a actual, we can make more of this. People started to like the bubbles. And that's exactly what happened. So that started the whole thing with champagne. And it gained its popularity because the merchants would gift bottles, and when they started gifting the bottles of sparkling wine, their clients who they were gifting these bottles to, these textile merchants, their clients would come back to them and go, "Oh, hey, I really love that. Can I get more?" And that got these merchants thinking, there's something here. So what did those textile merchants do? They started to buy up a lot of the vineyards, and they started opening champagne houses. So all the champagne houses that you know started as either textile merchants or bankers. So Ruinart, Veuve Clicquot, Moet and Chandon, Krug, Bollinger, like all these big name houses, they were all merchants. That is how this all began. That is how this started. None of them were in the business of making wine. They were gifting the bottles and then realized there was magic to be had here. There was something here that they could capitalize on. And that's how the entirety of champagne began. Or as we know champagne.
Always been tied to wealth.
Always been tied to wealth. Always.
Interesting.
And that's why I love grower champagne, which is what we've got here, right? The small producers, the families. Yes, they're not inexpensive. The process of making this is not inexpensive, but it's not, it's not $500 Krug. We're still under $100, right? We're closer to the $100 mark, but we're still not near the $500, $1,000. What's the lawn going for now these days? A couple grand. Like we're not in that price range. So that's the beauty of these wines. And again, they are very, very specific in how you have to make them.
So let's define what a grower champagne is.
Yes. So a grower champagne is a family-owned property where the family themselves are not only growing the grapes, they are also producing the wine. So they make the grapes, they harvest the grapes, and then they make the wine that you end up consuming.
And
That's
that is
grower.
Big distinction to the houses.
Yes, the houses.
They are buying fruit for the most part.
They are buying fruit for the most part. They may own some vineyards, but they don't own nearly enough to produce the amount they need to meet the demand for their wine. So Veuve Clicquot, Moet and Chandon, Dom Perignon, I think, is mostly its own vineyards because that is Moet and Chandon's cuvée wine.
Yes.
But the regular Moet and Chandon, no, they are sourcing their grapes is what they're doing. Same
it's
for all these other guys.
And we should just say that the skill that is required of these massive houses, specifically of the person, it's usually one person whose responsibility it is to blend. And that skill is so far and above beyond what I will ever touch.
It's impressive.
They need the most insane palate to be able to achieve the same taste profile every single year. They're not doing a vintage. They're not showing sense of place. They're aiming for a style, a house style.
Yeah.
And it takes such skill to do that every single time. But grower champagne is something different. And often it is more terroir driven.
It is.
We used to have this kind of concept that champagne was never going to be terroir driven. But there is, again, this shift, this cycle that we're in right now of there is a focus towards sense of place in Champagne as well as everywhere else.
Yeah. And this particular bottle, Camille Sauves, this is actually, or Sauves, the family has been doing this basically. They've been in the heart of Boozy, which is in the southern part of Champagne. They've been doing this since 1894, but still family owned, small production, incredible wines.
Boozy champagnes, I mean, they tend to be Pinot dominant.
They tend to be Pinot dominant.
Yeah.
They also tend to be less expensive than champagnes from other areas. So, and that's because the terroir there is not considered as prized, which is funny to me. Because
this is still Grand Cru.
I've had some amazing champagnes from Boozy that are sometimes better than some places that have been given the prestige, you know, of their area, of their village, right?
Makes a difference.
The producer makes a difference.
Yeah.
But for champagne, they have to age. First of all, in Champagne, one, it's got to be hand harvested. There's no machine harvesting allowed. So there's where the cost starts, right? To all of a sudden go up. If you've got to pay people to go and hand pick those grapes, cost starts going up. The second piece for champagne is that champagne does require you to age for non-vintage a minimum of 12 months. So 12 months on the lees in the bottle. That's the minimum.
Comparing to 9 here and 9 here.
Exactly. 3 extra months makes a big difference. When it's aging on the lees are the dead yeast in the bottle. That's close contact with that. That's really going to impart those bready, nutty aromas and flavors. That's what people do love about champagne. And then if you're doing vintage is much longer.
Much longer.
Vintage, I want to say, is 3 years on the lees. Yeah. And non-vintage just means that
27 or something weird. Something weird.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, 27 months.
Non-vintage also means that the wine that you are consuming, it's actually grapes picked in multiple years. And what they do is they basically make reserve wine. And so they will make a still wine, they'll bottle that, and they'll put that into their cellars. And they'll mark the batches for the years that they were done. And what they'll do is they will blend. This is where champagne gets really complicated, right? You talk about one person doing this.
Yeah.
This is where it gets wild. Champagne then does one person basically tasting the blends and determining which is
tasting
the
the
best.
reserves.
Yeah, they're tasting the reserves,
Yeah.
blending some of them together in different amounts, right, for different years, and determining which is the best and giving the best consistency, the flavors they want, the texture they want. And then they'll take that blend and then do a second fermentation. That's non-vintage. That's where the big houses really excel, because what they're trying to do is make sure the wine tastes exactly the same every year. But the love for grower champagne is the fact that it doesn't taste exactly the same every year. So you get character in the wine that is special. It becomes one of those things where it's like, it tastes like this now, but this moment is for now. It will not taste like this again.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's what I love.
And then, do you want to talk about the RM labeling?
Yes. So when you look at a bottle of champagne, you're always going to notice that there are these little numbers. It's going to, if you're watching, you can't see it. They're way too small on the bottle. But somewhere on the bottle, sometimes the front label, sometimes the back, you're going to actually see this 2 letters, and then you're going to see a slew of numbers behind it.
The numbers don't
matter. If you see the two letters are RM, that is your grower champagne.
Yes.
That is what that is.
So that's what you're looking for. When you aren't sure of the producer and you need to know whether it's grower, you're looking for RM. It will be somewhere.
If you see, oh, shoot, I'm all of a sudden blanking.
Also blanking.
Right? If you see CM, that's cooperative.
With a curved shape.
CM is cooperative. It's cooperatives. And those are also going to be your small families. But there's one winemaker, they're pulling their grapes together, and they're usually around a singular area. They're not going to be spread out across the entire region of Champagne. And then I want to say it's HM. Let me just check on that real quick here. This is why we have a laptop, right? So we can sometimes look something up real fast. We're like, we are blanking all of a sudden. It's been a while since I've had to look at.
You'd think I would have looked this up. I was focused on the two middle lines.
I believe it's NM, actually. So NM is going to be your bigger houses. Those are Moet.
Negociant.
Those are Veuve Clicquot. Those are, Bollinger. These are the guys who are buying grapes to produce the wines.
But they won't necessarily put that on their vintage?
They are required to put the NM, RM. Those little identifiers are required on the bottles.
But even in something like Dom Perignon vintage,
it
would have to say N.
If it is an NM, then they have to put NM. Yeah, if they are negotiating and buying grapes for that, they have to put NM on it.
But they shouldn't be, right? Because they own, like Dom owns their
that's the kicker here, right?
Vintage.
If they make a wine that is produced,
I'm sure there's a percentage that they have to hit.
Yeah, basically, if they make a wine and they are adding grapes from other people into it, they're going to have to put that NM. Like, they don't have a choice in that. This is a legal requirement. And it's basically so that you know how things are being done. Also, I just noticed on the back of this bottle here that not everyone does this, but I love when Champagne does this. This producer puts a lot of information. This is 75% Pinot Noir, 25% Chardonnay. It's also spent 4 years aging on a lees, and it was disgorged in 2024. So this wine, for under $100, was made over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it sat for 4 years aging before they released it. And it's tasty.
So good, but it's so fresh. That this is the beauty of often the grower champagnes is that the palate remains so vibrant.
Yes.
And look, let's be honest, I haven't had the money to buy vintage Krug.
No.
I would love
neither me.
to be drinking that regularly, but so I can't really compare it to that. But this is, I mean, you smell the bread. You get the nose is one thing, and then the palate, it's there, but it's integrated with the freshness and the acid. It's still so vibrant.
Yes. It's a beautiful wine. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's everything I want in Champagne.
Yeah.
And
the fruit is still really fresh.
It's still fresh. You still get these beautiful red fruit tones, a little bit of orchard, right? Like,
gorgeous.
So it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. And, I think that Champagne is one of those wines where I get it. Because of the price point, a lot of us in the US will reserve it for a celebration.
Yes. But we also should mention that, yes, the quality is one thing, and the personal labor that drives up costs here is one thing. But that's not to say that some of these other places aren't doing the same thing.
They are.
Their prices are lower. So it was one of the most successful marketing campaigns of the 1900s. Champagne really did brand themselves spectacularly.
They did.
To market themselves as a premium.
Well, and I think also, part of this comes down to, these wines are not only pricey because of the process to make them and the time that they are aging them. They also can be pricey because of economies of scale. France has
and reputation.
Yeah. France has a much more robust economy. They have a larger economy than Spain does, I believe. So, like,
I think all of Europe is struggling pretty hard right now. But yes,
true. But you look at the EU, and a lot of these wine countries we love are in the EU. France and Germany are the big juggernauts.
Mm.
They're huge.
Mm.
They're the big guys. But also land value. And land value also translates to property taxes. And Champagne's land value is very high.
Incredibly high.
So is Burgundy, right? Another place where it's small families, they're making excellent wine. But why is the cost so high? Well, it's one, demand, but two, the land costs a lot of money. It's everybody wants a piece of it.
And that's true of grower champagne, but it's not necessarily true of the houses who have owned their land for centuries at this point.
True. And the houses...
So they're factoring in rising costs, not necessarily because of taxes.
True. They are, and they are also negotiating for those grapes. So it also depends on what those growers are having to deal with for their costs, But Champagne is definitely, I will say, always worth it. It's
always good.
It's beautiful. It's delicious. And it is a wine that works with so many different foods that you really, once you pair the two together, changes your entire perception. This is not a wine that needs a celebration or a special moment. It is a wine that really could be any time. I get it. It's a little pricier. If you got the money, make it every time, right?
But if not, these guys exist.
They do.
And
they do.
are excellent.
And they are excellent, excellent wines as well. I'm not even going to call them alternatives because I hate when people do that. They should not be considered an alternative to champagne.
No.
They are excellent as other sparkling wines in the category.
Yeah, absolutely. This was so much fun.
This was great fun.
I don't know what we're going to do with all this wine.
We're going to drink these wines. What we're going to do, we're going to have a great time.
We're going to have a very good day.
Yes. Lovely day. Great start to the day.
All right. Well, this was fun.
This was fun. And thank you
We'll focus on maybe Cava, maybe Champagne again at some point.
Oh, we absolutely will definitely do like a Champagne one. We'll do a Cava one. We'll talk more in depth about these.
There's lots to talk about.
For sure. Yeah. The other thing I want everyone to know is one very important thing. If you want these wines, they will be available. Yes, they are available. You can go to the link in bio and you can find these wines available on our website right now. And that is through VDV Select. So I'm offering these wines if you want to grab some. They are gorgeous.
Couldn't recommend them
If
more.
you are in Greater Boston, this is the thing to do. Get these wines, have a good time. The other thing to note is, and this is just a procedural thing, if you do order these wines, obviously delivery is a thing. However, if you wanted to pick up, just write in the comments which of our stores you want to pick them up in. For some reason, our website loves to divert to just one store for a pickup option, but you can just put in the comments, I want to pick up at this Vino Divino location.
It will be
it will be there. So
have fun with these wines.
We will.
We will.
That's for sure. All right. Cheers.